Hey, Jeff Frick here with theCUBE. We're on the ground at the Cosmopolitan Hotel in lovely Las Vegas at the Predix, first Predix developer show, 2016, 1,700 people for the first developer show. I still find that hard to believe. But we're joined with the next guest, Matthias Heilmann, the Chief Data Officer for GE Oil and Gas. Welcome.
Thank you.
So exciting times. You got 1,700 people here in all the sessions learning about how they can develop in the Predix platform. Who would have thought 3 years ago that we'd be here today?
Yeah, it's all about scale, right? It's unbelievable how it turns out to be an event that actually is not just 1,700 people, but 1,700 people from all over the world.
Right, and developers, and everyone is competing for the developers' hearts and mind. Everybody wants developers, because everybody's got an ecosystem and a platform that they're trying to get people to develop too.
Yeah.
So what is it do you think is attracting such a great turnout here for your first event?
Well, I think it's Predix overall is a pretty unique entity for us. And people realize this now. It's not just for GE, but it's truly for the world. Something that has unique capabilities and features when you think about industrial internet that nobody else has to offer. And that's where you see people getting interested and trying it out, kicking the tires, and ultimately now competing, building applications on top of Predix.
Right, and you're in oil and gas is just this funny industry with such high variability on the price, right? The price of a barrel of oil changes from not that long ago, it was over $100, then it dropped down to 26 at how low it got, now it's back to like 45, that was over 50. So from a manufacturing point of view, and these guys are building facilities and production to try to figure out how to make money at a market rate that they don't have a ton of input on, they got to look for every ounce of efficiency that they can and probably be constantly changing the drivers for how they run their actual manufacturing and operations.
That's exactly right. I mean, volatility is the name of the game in oil and gas. Not just that the oil price has dropped from well over 100 down to 26 the beginning of the year. Also, the recoveries from 26 back to 45 are pretty quick. So for our customers, for our industry overall, one of the key drivers is to be flexible, nimble, very fast in the way you ramp down and ramp up your capacity. Because the worst thing can happen is you slim down, you tighten the belt, but then once the recovery comes, you're not ready, and you're not ready to execute.
Yeah, that's interesting. So they're really dynamically tuning their outputs based on real-time economic factors. It has nothing to do with kind of what they could get out of that hole in the ground if they really wanted to.
It's the output that counts. But think about it more about the investment levels, right? And the investments in the CapEx and operating expenses. In times where oil price is seeing volatility like this, you need to look for new business models and operating models that allow you to be extremely flexible in the way you operate so you stay ultimately afloat, right? And be a profitable business over a longer term, and that's one of the key things that we think about.
Right.
Our customer base needs to be able to operate effectively and efficiently and profitably at $30 a barrel, as well as 45, 50, or even 80 or 90. And in times like this, where, and let's be clear, right? The oil and gas industry is an asset-intense industry. I mean, there's lots of equipment, costs a lot of money. So in times like this, you need to be smart about your investment levels,
right?
And where you deploy resources, and how do you make the most out of the money you invest.
Right. The other thing is you got to go where the oil is, and you got to try new places. So in terms of kind of difficulty of climatic conditions on that gear, which then has to be connected to computer gear and software, totally unique challenge than in a pristine office or a climate-controlled data center where you've got all these devices in this edge. So tell us about some of these edge-specific challenges, because you've got to get compute there, you've got to get connectivity there, and you got to get storage there, and then you got to figure out how much of it's there at the bottom of the deep sea well versus in Texas or back at the data center, and how do they move that compute and store and decide which goes where?
Right, so look, GE is always looking for technological challenges. So that's in our sweet spot. You mentioned subsea sensors. How do we understand what's happening in subsea reservoirs? What kind of sensors do we need to be able to operate continuously in a harsh environment? Operate also at an operating cost that is ultimately working with the oil price environment you're in. And these are the items and the hardware that we care about, especially in my business. We care heavily about sensors and condition monitoring capabilities, which are behind your back here.
Right.
Where we establish an operating rhythm and transparency and visibility in items that you normally don't see.
Right.
And that's where you need sensors and measures and condition monitoring that allow you to then ultimately make the right decisions about the operating configuration of your production environment.
And I think a lot of people kind of understand the sensor concept, but they don't understand how many other kind of layers there are in that communication chain between the sensors and the controllers and the fabric and the network and the individual device and then kind of the system device and then the field. There's a whole bunch of ways that you can slice and dice and organize this output and this organization, really the orchestration of this system.
That's right. Well, it's we call it the on-ramp. The on-ramp, and one of the key drivers for the on-ramp is obviously is to be able to scale this, right? In today's environment, you're looking at replenishment times of 1 second intervals, right? With thousands of tags being connected to the internet, and then you have to make it cyber secure. Right? And nobody wants
small
to
little detail,
that
pesky security thing.
When you collect reservoir information, that's a core DNA of every oil and gas producer in the world. That needs to be something that they want to protect by all means. And we need to have technology. We have to have the means to provide them this confidence level that their data is secure and that they can ultimately utilize that data in an environment that where they have complete privacy around it.
Right. So just love to get some of your insight stories from the field, if you will. I'm sure you're out talking to customers all the time. When they start to integrate and put some of this stuff together, what are some of the things that are coming back like, wow, I didn't know this could happen, or wow, I never really thought of it that way, or wow, now I can get beyond worrying about squeezing out a little bit more operational efficiency, which is good and worth a lot of money, but now I can start, I can try to change the lens in the way that I run my business.
Right. Well, it's, we heard this morning in the keynote session is there's a very profound difference when it comes to the industrial internet is the amount of data once you turn these assets, these machines on that you're capturing is just tremendous. I mean, it's horrendous as for how much data comes in, right? Now, the second piece to it is the equipment was designed to operate efficiently, right? I mean, you're looking basically for a piece of equipment that under normal circumstances runs perfect. I mean, so you're basically looking at a piece of equipment, you're collecting all this data, and you don't really
just keeps
find
running.
something for it. Right? It keeps on running. So there's nothing to really look for. So you're looking literally for the needle in the haystack, right? But this piece of information ultimately, if you get it, can then drive this massive productivity improvement. So industrial internet, massive amount of data. In oil and gas, a further complication is, as you said, is we're not in the shiny office in Las Vegas, downtown San Francisco, or Chicago, Boston. Is we are in kind of the rough place of the world where you got to think about connectivity, whether you're in Africa, whether you're in Latin America, even if you're in the North Sea. These are areas where you need to think about connectivity, and that's where we establish with our partners connectivity environments to be able to service our customers, right? And then second, around this, as I said, is too much data can also be difficult to digest. So what are the compression methodologies that you need to deploy in order to ensure that you really look at the really relevant data, not just everything that is creating just noise?
Right.
And we have done this. I mean, if you look at the equipment that in the oil and gas industry is deployed by GE, especially around turbo machinery, our turbines, they're creating quite a bit of data. I mean, just to give you a ballpark reference, is our equipment in the field generates as much data as Facebook does in a whole day. They got 1.6 billion users. We've got about 15,000 turbines out there. It just gives you
and the day-to-day
comparison
is pretty
right?
close.
Yeah,
what you're saying?
But it's basically the same kind of data creation.
Right.
Now, not all the data is useful. Now, on Facebook, all the pictures are important.
They're every single one.
Now, we have to make sure that all the data that we're collecting is we're just filtering out the important piece.
Right.
And our data scientists, our engineers think about compression methodologies, filtering methodologies to establish kind of the right data and filtering out the noise so that actually we can focus on the real things.
Right.
Because one of the things that we see with operators in the field, when everything is blinking, right? You don't see the forest because you're too close to the trees.
Right, right. So, give you the last word before we're out of time. For people that didn't make it here to Transform, share a little bit of kind of what's the vibe. It's the first one, kind of some of the hallway chatter and some of the conversations that you're having to share to people that they should probably come next year.
Yeah. Well, I think it's amazing that we have lots of developers here who truly think in business use cases or customer use cases. So it is truly amazing to see that it's not really kind of a little kind of laboratory experience anymore. I mean, people come here from customers, from partners, our SI partners with true use cases in the oil and gas industry, and where they're trying to get their hands on how can I use Predix and the operating system capabilities that G is offering in the real world. And now I can say for the oil and gas business that we probably have more use cases, or we have people to staff against them right now, which is a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have.
So I mean, if we have 1,700 people this year, we probably should be hitting like 3,500 next year, just double it. Right?
I don't doubt it. I mean, the rooms are packed. I went in a couple session rooms earlier today, and I was in the one with the digital twin, and people were taking pictures of the slides and paying close attention.
Yeah, and then the dojo one is interesting, where we're bringing customers and partners in, and they're sitting for a week in a room and basically building a real application, right?
Right.
So no more just kicking the tires, doing the real thing, actually the real test drive.
Right, and that's the test of a platform, is other people are building applications on it, right? Because nobody's got a line item budget for a new platform, right? It doesn't exist.
It's a pretty. We went through our bumps. We had our speed bumps along the way.
Right.
I think as we are, just timing-wise and the scale we have now and the experience, the lessons learned, we're certainly ahead of the rest of the pack, and bringing partners like Microsoft on board, allows us to then bring other folks on board, because they say is, what the heck, why should I invest in a platform if I can build the application that actually drives productivity.
Right. All right. Well, Matthias, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. And
real pleasure.
It's real oil and gas. It's real industry right here. This is big, heavy stuff. He's got a little demo over here, and all the boys are hanging out and girls playing with the toys, which is what we all like to do. So thanks again. Appreciate it. All right, Jeff Frick here with theCUBE. We're at Predix Transform at the Cosmo in Las Vegas. Thanks for watching.